We have Lauren Leader here, CEO of All In Together, along with Jen and me and Joe. And I want to talk to you about a few other things. You've written a piece called The Supreme Court Case That Has Me Worried for Survivors and for My State. Tell us about it.
Just when June was ending and you thought the worst was over, the Supreme Court attacking affirmative action and LGBTQ rights, like what else can they possibly do? Well, they went back to a case they decided last June, the Bruen case, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association against Bruen. And what that case did, and because the case we're talking about is the foundation for this, it basically said that I, as governor, no longer have the ability to enforce a law that was on the books for 100 years, that you have to have a reason to have a concealed carry weapon. We don't want people walking around Times Square and on subways and in our churches and our schools able to have a concealed carry gun. Mm-hmm. So the Supreme Court struck down that law 1 year ago, and they're using that this year as the foundation. A Fifth Circuit court in Texas says, well, you can't keep a gun from someone accused of domestic abuse, someone who's threatened a woman with a gun, who went on a shooting spree.
That seems like a reasonable requirement.
Even in Texas, a lower court judge says Rahimi was so dangerous that there was an order of protection to say you can't have guns.
Right.
But the circuit court judge said, no, based on that case a year ago, we don't have a right to protect these victims. So I'm sorry, all hell's going to break loose, because now we can't even protect women. 50% of women who are murdered with a gun, it's because of a known, present or past person, intimate partner, someone they know. These women are going to be so vulnerable. And it's personal to me because my own grandmother, who I'm named after, was a victim of domestic violence. And my mother dedicated her life to helping survivors. Back in the 70s and the 60s, no one talked about it. Remember, that was talk about battered women. They had no rights. They always took the side of the husband. Well, she deserved it. She got out of line. Women had no rights. Mm-hmm. We finally evolved to a point where we do now, and now the Supreme Court may, in next term, take away our right to protect them from guns. So that's what I'm worried about. I am deeply concerned about this.
So there are a lot of, pretty strong support for this type of point of view, Lauren Leader. The attitudes are shifting as we see mass shootings almost daily in America. But gun owners, they really want their rights kept. They believe that this is part of their fundamental rights in this country.
Right. I mean, there is this just absolute extremism on the Second Amendment, which I think most Americans reject. And actually what we found in our most recent polls was this huge gender divide between even Republican women and Republican men, specifically on the red flag law issue. There were 3 issues that Republican women supported, like 10 points more than Republican men, much closer to Democrats and independents. One was these red flag laws. The other one was raising the age to 21. And the third one was the ability to restrict certain kinds of guns like AKs. So, this is a bipartisan issue. But what I wanted to ask you, Governor, was that there are all these issues, right, where the governors across this country are being restricted in their ability to act by the Supreme Court. In New York, you've been incredibly innovative in trying to figure out how to still protect the rights of women, even given that. If we think it's possible the court will overturn this precedent, what is in the power of the governors to do to continue to protect women?
We'll always look for that carve-out. This is exactly what we had to do when it came to abortion rights. We passed laws to protect providers. If women come from another state, I want to make sure they're not prosecuting the doctors of New York who are providing these services. So we had to do a lot there. And on the guns, last year we raised the age to buy an AR-15. Not that they should be allowed anywhere, in my opinion, but
I agree.
We also passed a law in our state saying if there's an order of protection to protect someone from harm, they're not allowed to have a gun. So I'm going to continue doing what I can to find anywhere there's a little clause, something I can hang my hat on, because I have to follow the Constitution as interpreted by a mega court. And that is very, very hard for us who want to do the right thing. And you cannot say you're serious about crime if you're not serious about doing something on guns. And Republicans are not the law and order party anymore. They ceded that. The mega Republicans took that away from them. And those who are like-minded like us, like these Republican women, the mothers who are sick and tired of being worried whether their young child's going to come home from school or not. This insanity has to stop. It's a Republican Supreme Court. It's the Republican. And I'm talking about mega Republicans, because there are a lot of Republicans who want us to protect their kids.
Right.
We're talking about the mega Republicans on the Supreme Court and in state houses across this nation.
And Jen, that's it's really not meant to be snarky. It's just yet another issue where Republicans are on the wrong side when you look at where America, and you can go down the list, abortion, gun control, when you see these mass shootings in schools.
In school, right? It's not where, talk about the minority trying to control what the majority, the majority view. And also, this was the party that was supposed to want power to go back to the states and let states decide how things like guns and women's health care should be governed. But I know in your piece you sort of try to quantify. I think it's useful to know how many women would be at risk if your ability to do this was overturned. And I think the number 9,000 sticks in my head.
We had 80,000 people who are victims of domestic violence every year. But what we did in the aftermath of that Supreme Court case is that I changed the red flag laws. A red flag law very simply is this. If someone sees there's a sign that an individual could do harm to themselves or others, we have a right as society to protect ourselves and find out whether they have access to guns. Because I toughened that law last year, we went from 1,400 orders issued a year to over 10,000 today. That's 10,000 people who are protected because we took some tough, and other governors can do this. It's in their power to do this.
Joe, jump in.
Governor, we've been talking all morning about how extreme Republicans in the House have hijacked a defense spending bill. And they're able to do that. And extremists like Marjorie Taylor Greene have a huge say right now in House politics. The Freedom Caucus has a huge say in House politics, in large part because of botched redistricting plans in New York State going into 2022. Democrats lost 5, 6, maybe 7 seats, possibly. There is now, the New York High Court is going to be hearing a case, a redistricting case, and they're actually going to allow the commission to actually do the work here. Right. Should they do that? How should, I know it's a different branch, but how important is it that the commission is allowed to do their job?
Joe, you hit right on it. The path through Hakeem Jeffries becoming the Speaker of the House of Representatives and putting Democrats back in charge to stop this insanity goes right through New York State. What happened last year was that a judge in a rural county who was unaccountable to anybody picked someone else in another state to draw our lines, subverting the ability of our legislature to do their jobs as required by law. This year, we're fixing it. I signed an amicus brief in support of the lawsuit that challenged those lines. So it's a reset now. The Independent Redistricting Commission will do their jobs. It'll go before the Court of Appeals, I have no doubt. And I feel fairly confident that the right result will happen in 18 months. We're going to take back this country. And I served in Congress when the Republicans were in charge, when the Tea Party had just taken office. How quaint was that era compared to where we are now? Bring back the Tea Party, because you could at least have a conversation.
You could.
So I'm sorry, look how far we've fallen. But hope is on the way. If all these Republican mothers join with us across this country and say, I want my kids protected, I don't want people who are abused by an individual who uses their power over them physically and emotionally to have a gun to take their life, well, guess what? It's going to be a new day in America.
Yeah, all right. Well, Mika, you heard it here first. Governor Hochul says, bring back the Tea Party. I don't think she actually meant that.
But you're kidding.
We bring this up, just kidding. We bring this up, though, Mika, because, again, I don't think people understand how important decisions made by local and state judges are. Kevin McCarthy would not be Speaker of the House right now were it not for a rural judge that stepped in and took away the ability of a commission to actually draw the lines. I mean, New Yorkers drawing the lines for New Yorkers.
Yeah, absolutely.
7,000 votes.
God.
The Democrats from the majority.
Democratic Governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good to see you. Come back soon. And, of course, Lauren Leader, CEO of All In Together, always good to see you. Thank you as well.